This week, opposition MPs tried again to start the process of giving 16 and 17-year-olds the vote. But Conservative backbenchers blocked the move. Now, I'm a panellist who likes to say yes, and on this issue, I'm saying it again. Yes, we should extend the franchise to those aged 16. Of course, the dinosaurs will say that these young people will be brainwashed by groups like Momentum on Facebook, and that if we do allow them to vote, there'll never be a Tory government again in their lifetimes. They'll say it's too much responsibility at a young age, even though you can marry and join the army at 16. Look at the state of things, people. It's our children's future we're planning, and decisions on tax, tuition fees and housing affect them too. So, you spoilsports in the Commons who've just filibustered your way out of this, let young people join in and have a stake in our democracy too.
Well, can I just say that clearly we'll be brainwashed by groups such as Momentum into voting? No, in most instances, these folk haven't even completed their education.
So?
Why should they vote?
Because they will educate themselves when they know they have a chance at the ballot box to make things happen for them.
Why will they educate themselves?
Because the evidence, because the evidence from the Scottish referendum, where the 16 and 17s were allowed to vote, was a wild success. And it also, in my view, led to the right result. So let's hear what Tory darling Ruth Davidson has to say about my topic.
I went into the independence campaign thinking that 18 was probably about right for people to vote, and came out of it having spent so much time doing hustings and question and answer sessions in schools and colleges and universities that I'm a complete convert. I thought that our young people were some of the best and brightest voices in the independence debate, and I do support votes at 16.
I mean, there was Ruth basically saying, you know, we can't have government by the old for the old. And I completely agree. I mean, this is what we've had with the Brexit referendum, which had obviously a disproportionate number of people, obviously across a majority of constituency. It was an older demographic that voted for it, and I think it's time that the 16-year-olds were brought in.
Rachel, you've raised 16-year-olds, as indeed have I. Do you really... Oh, actually, yours are probably a bit different because they'd be so engaged, but most 16-year-olds, do you actually think they have the political savvy?
How many of them voted for Corbyn? That's what you're worried about, Nick. Just allow them to know the facts and to vote with the ballot box.
Can I ask Nick a question?
Yeah. Can it be geography, please?
I understand. Professor Nawaz, let him speak. Yeah. No, I understand your concern about them voting Corbyn, but I think surely you'd be more concerned with falling voter participation.
Yes.
And you'd be more concerned with encouraging our young people to participate in the democratic process. So if the evidence shows that if people start voting from a younger age and get into the habit of it, that they are more likely to continue voting as they grow, surely that's more Tory voters for you once they get older.
But, well, by the way, you don't have to vote Conservative. There are many other parties available. Do we now know, though, from looking at other countries, that those who have allowed children, I call them children, sorry, young people to vote at 16, they vote continually?
Well,
is there evidence that shows that?
I can't quote it to you, chapter and verse, but I have looked at it, and it does seem to indicate that the younger you begin...
what's known as making it up, Professor?
The younger you begin...
He's making it up!
The more you carry on.
The more likely you are to carry on. And actually, it's about franchise. Let's listen to what Jim McMahon had to say in Parliament.
Our franchise has always been in evolution. It's always been a matter of taking into account where the public mood is, and it's always been, and this is really important, it's always been about making sure that we expand democracy to be as inclusive as possible, so that it's not almost an exclusive club where power is held by the few.
Now, Rachel, you raised the Scottish referendum. The beautiful thing with it is that 75% of 16 to 17-year-olds voted, and that was a higher percentage than 18 to 24-year-olds, and even higher as well than 25 to 34-year-olds. The only next age group that beat those 16-year-olds was the 35 to 44-year-olds. Now, that's optimism. I think that's cause for optimism because it tells us those 16-year-olds, if what I'm saying holds, I'm sorry I can't quote you chapter and verse on it, but if it holds, they are more likely to carry on voting.
Nick, you said in an earlier topic, if you had a general election tomorrow, the Tories would win. Do you think if the 16 and 17-year-olds were voting, that would be the case?
Be a little closer. Let's go to someone who's closer to the age range as well than I am. Michelle.
Well, so I've got a couple of points to make. So first point, so this is described as the representation of the people bill that people are debating at the moment often. But I find it really interesting that the two major parties have always been reasonably opposed to, for example, proportional representation. Because if you wanted to represent people fairly and squarely, you wouldn't be arguing against that level of representation of the people in the first place.
Yes, OK.
So I find it very interesting that Labour, for example, weren't so keen to represent everybody and be inclusive when it didn't suit them. But now that it does suit them, they're very open and
Hold
desiring.
on, has Labour opposed lowering the franchise to 16-year-olds? Or
No,
just a PR?
I'm saying about PR.
Right, OK,
which
that's
would-
slightly different, but...
No, well, this is the representation of the people bill. This is what they're arguing. And this is, I would argue, first and foremost, that we do need reform in the election system. And I would have said that a long time ago it should have been PR. But what I'm saying is that the two major parties were very against that because it wouldn't have worked for them. Now, representation of the people is very trendy because they've realised that a group of the people, the young people, would support them. So now they're trying to make these changes. That's the first point. My second point is I hear so many people trying to poo-poo the Brexit result and constantly quoting, yes, but the educated people, the university towns voted Remain, and therefore that is the right decision. And those same people that are arguing point are now arguing that actually 16-year-olds will educate themselves
Michelle,
at the ballot
can I
box.
cut through? Yes or no? Votes for 16-year-olds?
I would struggle, I think, with 16. I think that 18, because yes, you can join the army with your mum's permission. Yes, you can get married with your mum's permission. I think 18 is probably about right.
Right, thank you. And now what about you,
For the
Afua?
reasons I've just said.
Well, you've had me no more Conservative governments in our lifetime, frankly. No, I'm joking.
Surprise us.
I'm joking. But I personally think that 16, 17-year-olds should be given the vote. I think.
Oh, what a surprise.
I think
What about with their parents' permission?
Right, Michelle's point about PR, I hear what you're saying, but I think that it's a bit of a separate point, and I think we can have a debate about PR. For me, there are other reasons why PR is an issue. And also, if you extend the franchise to 16 and 17-year-olds, they will now have a say.
It's about what's driving it.
Yeah, but this is about
it.
who votes. And if you allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote, maybe they will vote for PR, if we had a referendum on changing voting measures. The point is who you include in making those decisions about other changes we make. My personal experience, of talking to young people is that the quality of their engagement with politics far exceeds older voters who are much more complacent. They take it really seriously. They have a very keen sense of how... Have you actually spoken to 16, 17-years during an election?
I try and avoid them at all times.
The defence rests. And furthermore, Nick...
The ones you do because they're into it. The average the average 16 or 17-year-old doesn't give a flying fig about politics. You're only talking to the ones who are motivated.
That's
absolutely true.
And do you know why? Because they've seen manifesto after manifesto handing out goodies to the older voters as a way of bribing them to vote. Now, what we saw in the last election was actually a tussle for the hearts and minds of the younger generation over tuition fees. And, of course, the offer that Labour gave was one of the main things that swung it. Well, it didn't obviously win, but swung
I drive past a street corner in Slough with a load of 16 and 17-year-old lads standing on a street corner in Slough tonight. They don't give a about politics whatsoever.
Nick.
They couldn't give a damn about
Listen,
it.
You are
your
wrong, and
whole
stop swearing
argument
in my topic.
rests on an incredibly patronising view that completely underestimates our young people. I completely disagree with you.
Can we allow the
I
facts
think
to
that
lead
they're
the way?
completely...
Didn't the Scottish referendum demonstrate
75% of them
did care?
voted.
I
that's
said
about-
Slough, not Stranraer.
No, but that's about turnout, which I agree.
Yeah,
They are likely to be more enthusiastic participants. But there's the other question, which Nick's trying to suggest, that they wouldn't make a high-quality contribution because they don't understand the issues and they're not informed. And I completely disagree with that. I think that is a fundamentally pessimistic
the original
view
reason
of our
for
young
not extending
people.
the franchise to women and everybody else?
Yeah, that's where we went wrong.
We all know what type of history Nick would have been on. We all know.
And actually,
we
we
all
should
know.
get rid of all the women panellists because our contribution falls far below the standard
As I've
expected of
said
Nick
before,
Ferrari.
the voting age needs to be raised to about 45. Then we'd all be in a far better place.
No, my line in the referendum was we should have banned anyone over the age of 45 from voting. Then we would have got the right result.
Is there something to do with linking it to at the point where you start paying tax into the system? And I'm just playing devil's advocate. So if you're trying to think of...
because of VAT.
No, but I'm talking about once you start working and earning and paying, so of course we're raising the thresholds higher and higher, so you're not doing that until you're slightly older, I would imagine, depending on your earning. So is there some kind of link
So if you're
between...
unemployed,
So that's
you don't
no
get to vote?
representation
Yes.
without taxation.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Michelle, that's no representation
I see what's
without
happening
being
here.
taxed.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.